Good morning from Guam. Today, in Creative Arts Therapies Week in the USA, I'm going to share a project, a collaboration that my husband and I, so Dr. Steve Harvey, and I created with our U.S. colleague in New York, Joan Wittig, and our local physical storytelling dancer friend, Alethea, and then we invited a peer group in China to be part of that, and there were 4 women, and at the time everybody was pretty much locked inside. They were told to stay where they were, and it was right after Chinese New Year, so some people were visiting family and in locations that weren't home. And so it presented quite a challenging time for them. So we felt that we wanted to do something when my husband had been planning a seminar, a webinar online for the Institute, Inspire's Institute. He got talking to Banyan, who's a dance movement therapist, and she got very excited about it, and the 3 of us experimented one Sunday afternoon, and she was quite amazed at how this process took her out of her experience in terms of the feeling of being quite isolated and, I don't know if you want to say imprisoned, but something like that. So we decided to make this a bigger project and meet with her peer group, and then we invited Joan and Alethea to be part of that. And all of us were on Zoom. Steve and I happened to be physically together so we could actually move with one another. And physical storytelling is a lot about the movement interactions. So we often do dyads or scores that involve 3 people dancing. But the limitations on Zoom, we decided, are that, we could kind of create interactions if we wanted to. It's just difficult to then put them together to have a decent visual of it. So we decided that we would do more in the solo improvisation form. So physical storytelling is something that's been evolving for the last 30 years, that we have taken some of the framework of playback theater, using the conductor and using a teller to tell a story. And then we have brought in just dance improvisation, contact improvisation, tools and experiences from the practice of authentic movement. So the witnessing and also the self, the real internal witness is really vital in this role, and trusting movement instincts in the process. Doesn't feel like I have anybody live here, because if I had people live, I would ask them to imagine a story and I would improvise it. But I might do that at the end because maybe people will join me. So in this project, we were really focusing on the Chinese women telling their stories of being in their homes during this outbreak. So we had quite a few stories, but I'm just going to share one of the stories, and I'll also then share the fairy tales, and I'm going to read the fairy tales and show the artwork. So not only is this, a dance and guess you'd say it's a dance theater collaboration project. Also, we used art and poetry and words, so it's quite a collaborative in the art process as well. And when we give workshops in this, we often might show a video from a previous session and have people respond in art and words. So, the story that I'll share is that one of the Chinese women spoke about how she had a very strong longing right before this outbreak hit to just go off and be in the mountains. So that longing to be by herself and listen to herself was the story. And then our colleague Joan did a solo around that. And after the solo, we did some artwork and wrote some words. So I have the actual art that Steve and I did. So this is what Steve drew. And he wrote, "The unexpected change that take my breath, the leaving." So just let that resonate. And then I wrote and drew. So the writing I did was drooping, regrouping into ground, finding that impulse, that aliveness that lays rooted, drooping, stooping, searching for the impulse so I may again arise. So that was one of the stories. We also had a story from one of the participants whose cat had passed away while she was where she was visiting family, and she couldn't go back and bury the cat. So that spaciousness of not being able to say goodbye. So that was another story. And then how we like to summarize or finish an experience in authentic movement is by using a score called the fairy tale. And in the fairy tale, it's a completely improvised piece. So generally we have one mover. We might have a mover with scarves, and because the only prop we use are dancing color scarves. And then one person is the fairy teller. So the fairy teller just begins by saying a long time ago or once upon a time, or just a phrase like that to kind of invoke that. And then it's completely improvised. So between the mover and the fairy teller. So it's just in the moment. So I'm just going to read the two fairy tales that came as a result of this project, and then I'll show you the artwork that relates to that. So better put my glasses on or I won't be able to read it. So the English fairy tale was, during the evening when the darkness falls from the sky, the colors from the clouds, sky and moon come through the trees and decorate the leaves. This evening the winds came, with little daredevils all around the forest cover, the darkness looking for what to pull up and what to grab, and what to pull out of the ground. The storm intensified and became a typhoon. So that was the fairy tale where the mover was Alethea, our local dancing friend, and Steve told the fairy tale. So that was the English one. And then here's the one in Chinese. So this is the one that two Mandarin speaking movers did. So one was the dancer and one was the fairy teller. So she told it in Mandarin, and this is our English translation. Long, long time ago, the sky and the earth is not yet separated. The sky and the earth are mixed until one day a very able god-goddess appears. Because of it, the whole world starts to change. Because of it, the world takes on a new appearance. It creates the stars, the moon, the earth, the mountains rise, rivers. It's wonderful painting pens to create little by little. It is so creative. It creates everything around it. Then it starts to create a bunch of small creatures. They can breathe, fly, and run. They are free. They are looking for beauty. They are looking for strength. They are satisfied with what they have. They can't stop until they find. Now just let that resonate with you. And I'll show you some of the artwork responses that came from those two fairy tales. So we did the two fairy tales back to back, and then one art poet response. Now the fullness of this will be in an article in that Creative Arts Journal that's put out by the Inspiries Institute. And you can see the videos there as well. So this was my art piece based on both fairy tales. And I wrote, in the darkness, vibrancy exists. In the darkness, power manifests. Rest germinates roots. Mover and with readiness to implode or explode. Vibrancy of color, rainbow reflecting life, beauty unfolds and unravels out of darkness. And then inside, and this is Steve's art response, and he wrote, inside the winds, the full power of creation. And then I have a couple more drawings I can show you, but I don't have the words. Now the interesting part is that one of the Chinese women did an art piece after the whole experience. And I just want you to look at this piece. I think the word is thankful and connect on here. And just, absorb those responses. And then I'm going to end this live video, and I'm just going to do a very short improvisation, and you can hold inside yourself whatever image, stories emerge from you, and any responses you had. You can afterwards do some writing, some art, moving, whatever, wherever you feel to move. And it would be lovely if you shared it with me. I would really appreciate that. So if you have any responses, please share. So I'm just going to do a brief little movement improv. And if you would like to write, draw, dance in response, please do take your time, and then you can share it with me. I would appreciate that. And our group will plan to meet again next month and regroup and see where we're all at. And meanwhile, the virus has gone to New York, where Joan is. The virus has hit Guam on Sunday. We had 2 positive cases that have now, or 3, that have now morphed to 12. And we are a very small island, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And is this enough of a wake-up call to help us save ourselves on this planet? So that's how we have connected through the Creative Arts Therapies during this time with the virus. We also did another session with 2 Italians. They happened to be in London at the time, and we're trying to get back to Italy. So that was a really interesting bit. And then Banyan from China joined us, and then Alethea from Guam joined us. So we did that maybe 2 weeks ago. So we continue on with using this technology to bring physical storytelling to those who really are in need of this creative process. And just back to this drawing. This is a little bit of reflection later, but it's also about the story under the story. The thing that physical storytelling is about is that, the story has a layer of meaning, but underneath it, there's usually some deeper story. So we really like to bring out what's the story underneath, what are the deeper meanings and struggles that people are experiencing, or joys, or whatever's underneath. So thank you for joining me, and may you survive this virus and thrive as a result. Many blessings.